Welcome back to the Data Protection Diaries. This is a brief intro because I know that you're not looking to see my face in this video. In this video, we're doing something slightly different, and we're going to have a pub chat with a very good friend of mine, a guy called Barry Moult. For those of you that follow me on LinkedIn, you'll probably know who Barry Moult is. He's worked in information governance, data protection across the NHS and social care sectors for more than 20 years. He's provided countless training and support, DPO services to numerous numbers of organisations. He's helped thousands of people on their information governance journeys. And this year he was quite rightly appointed the Information Commissioner's Office Data Protection Practitioner of the Year. Something like that, Data Protection Practitioner Excellence. But huge award and massively well deserved. Barry is an absolute gent. He's a stalwart of the privacy community, and he's also a lot of fun. So we've been looking forward to do this for a while. We couldn't actually go to a pub, so we sort of made our own video pub, and that's what we're going to do in this video. I hope you enjoy it. Please do give us a like, give us a thumbs up, give us a share, and also comment down below. Is there anybody else you'd like to see come into the Privacy Officer Arms, and we'll see what we can do. But for now, it's enough of my waffle. Let's get on with the video. I don't even care. We're just gonna... I've made you a sign, Barry.
I tell you, you've spent all morning doing that.
I have. It took a good 45 seconds. I did. I've got a rum and coke.
Rum and coke. Well, I think I'll have an Abbott ale if that's okay. But I can't drink it all because I need some for tomorrow.
This is amazing.
Can you see this? Best. Are you ready for tomorrow?
Yeah, VE Day tomorrow. We're ready for the street parties.
What I don't understand is the most exciting thing I've been looking forward to for 7 weeks.
What a VE Day party!
VE Day party on the front lawn. Gonna put my gazebo up.
You're not even allowed to you're not allowed to shake hands or anything. Though, don't forget. No sharing cakes. No sharing cupcakes.
Told the neighbours keep away. But hang on a second. I just need to pour a drink.
There we go. Look at that. That's like a proper pub sound as well.
Well, you know, nice head on it.
It's almost like the real thing.
Well, it better be. Missy said, "Am I having wine?" No, not having wine. Having beer. Or I might have a gin and tonic. I don't mind that.
Yeah, that's all right. You can't be drinking wine at 1 o'clock in the afternoon.
Well, I have done. No. I have done before now.
Well, we're not animals, though, Barry. We're not animals, you know.
Oh dear. Anyway, so all the best to you.
How's life? Cheers.
Yep, it's good.
So, has life changed now that you're a stalwart of the privacy community? Famous, some might say.
Well, the only thing that's changed is lots of people look at my profile on LinkedIn, but never connect with me. I think they must look at it and think, no, not having that.
There's nothing worse, is there, when you get that little notification and it's like, so-and-so looked at your profile and you think, oh, yeah, brilliant. Like,
so I go and look at theirs, and if I feel, do you know what, they would be good, I might ask them to accept a connection. But lots of people have looked, but not asked for connection. What's all that about?
Who the hell is Barry Moult? Oh, it's him. Oh no.
So what's happened to you over the past 7 weeks?
Do you know what? It's gone really, really fast for a start. I think I only appreciated probably yesterday that it's actually been 7 weeks since all this started. I've learned to be more creative. I think is the first.
Yeah.
And, you know, be a bit more adventurous in what we're doing.
Yeah.
And I've learned that I can live without seeing James's physical embodiment for 7 weeks as well, which is nice.
That's not very nice. Well, I had to go down to the chemist this morning, and I realised that my car's done 7 weeks to the gallon.
Wow.
7 weeks to the gallon.
I can't remember the last time I filled up. I genuinely can't.
Yeah.
Like, there's just been no need to drive anywhere for more than 10 minutes to the supermarket and back. It's been crazy.
So have you been doing your exercise though? Have you been, walking?
Yeah, I go for a walk most evenings. I go and see the kids every week as well, so I get to run around their garden and lift and carry and be a horse and be a doggy and whatever else is required at the time. I've been doing some home workouts, so working out in the living room.
Yep.
Joe Wick style. Yeah, anything just to pass the time.
Yeah. Well, I've been on my bike because I've got a smart trainer in the garage. So if I'm short of time or I just want to do something, I can go on the Zwift in the garage. Or like after we finish today, it's a nice day, not too windy. I'm going to go and do about 25, 30 miles around the villages.
How old are you then?
Oh, Richard.
That's a good question, isn't it?
Well, let me put it like this. Are you good at maths? I joined the Air Force and started nurse training in 1973.
Jesus.
I was 65 this year.
And you're cycling 30 miles?
Hey, I know people older than me that do a lot more than me.
Tell you what, I struggle to do 10.
Yeah.
That's an effort.
Yeah. So what about work over the past 7 weeks?
Do you know what? It's been interesting. The beginning of it, the first couple of weeks, was just radio silence. We had regular contact with our current clients and the people that we, a bit like you, that we do DPO as a service for. We maintained regular contact with those. Any meetings were made virtual. But in terms of prospecting and new business, it was just decimated. We probably lost 90% of our revenue overnight. Just what we'd normally do in a month. People just everybody shut down, everybody stopped. Nobody knows who to talk to. The last 2 or 3 weeks, you're starting to see a bit of normality. People are starting to talking again. Pen tests are starting again. Prospects are coming back out. People are starting to look for quotes and things again. But what about yourself? Because you had a lot of training booked in, and
I've probably lost 70% of my work, in the sense that a lot of my training, 1 or 2 days a week, was face-to-face training down in London mostly. So all that's gone. 1 or 2 people have started to do sort of this type of training, sort of visual training. But I haven't gone down that route as such. But I am going to start doing some in June and July for a company I work for. But the other part of my training is the DPO stuff that I do. So I'm DPO for 58 GP practices, 3 hospices, and as of yesterday, my son's company.
Oh.
Yeah, he's a doctor. He works in ITU, so he's been really on the front line. And he does a lot of private work, works for a private health organisation as well. He's an anaesthetist, and he got a letter from the ICO saying this company isn't registered with the ICO.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
I think the company has changed. It used to be his father-in-law's, but now it's a combined one. And because he's got medical sensitive data,
of course.
And anyway, he's registered with them, and he said, do I need a DPO? I said, not necessarily, you don't. I said, but you do have accounts for patients, and you do have notes that you write up for patients and so on. So you don't need one. Why don't you voluntarily put your dad down as your DPO?
Yeah.
And I said, if you get any questions, then just throw them back to me. So I've had some work to do with that, mostly sort of things like DPIAs because of video conferencing or other new systems that are coming in, but also subject access requests. They seem to be getting more complicated of what people want and how they want it and sort of thing. So it's been those things that I've been dealing with as part of my DPO.
Have you found has there been an increase in that sort of stuff in the health, especially in the healthcare sector? Have they got more time? Are they starting to ask more questions?
I think the answer is no. I would think over the past 7 weeks, I've had less sort of queries from GP practice managers about subject access requests, and freedom of information requests also have gone down. But I should suspect that once we come out of this, there are going to be people asking questions. And I think the other thing is maybe the GP practice managers have put some of the subject access requests and FOI on one side, simply because they're too busy with the COVID-19 stuff. So there may be stuff sitting there, but will come through eventually.
Yeah, which makes sense, and I think the ICO made it clear, didn't they, that they're not going to pursue people for being a bit late responding to a SAR. There are better things that need to be.
Yeah, as long as people tell them, because we've got COVID-19 and that's not our priority, but we will come back to you as soon as we can. If they do that, I don't think the ICO would make a fuss about it.
Yeah. How have you find? We talked, or we've seen a lot this week. Lots of people talking about contact tracing, privacy awareness, and generally whether a pandemic like this makes people more privacy aware or less privacy aware, more likely to say, do you know what, I'm going to give up this because actually there's a greater good.
Yeah.
Do you see? Because we always see it on LinkedIn and lots of people talk about it, and you kind of get caught in that sort of bubble. Do you see it out in the wider world? Do you see it out in the healthcare sector? Are people paying more interest to privacy or less interest to privacy, given the circumstances?
I think it's become a dilemma. So people like us who work in this field, there are some of my colleagues, and I fully understand, saying, that the NHS app, they were downloaded because it's to do with personal safety and health, regardless of maybe some of the issues over the privacy side. I fully understand that. But it's interesting. I don't know if you've seen the latest stuff that, I forget who it was published, that the ICO have given 10 recommendations for the NHS app developers.
Okay.
And right at the very end, there's a comment, and I'll read it to you. It says, developers should only strengthen privacy and not do anything to weaken it. And out of all the things that they're saying, I think that's the important thing, that whatever they do in these apps, they should strengthen privacy, not weaken it. Yeah. And my concern is, and I'm no great developer or cyber security person, but there are things you can take benefits, and there are things that you may have to compromise slightly. That's, and everybody has their own opinion, and everybody must make up their own mind of whether they would do that or not.
Yeah.
Although the strangest one I did hear is that, and I don't know how true this is, you might be able to tell us, that if you've got an iPhone, it would have to be unlocked for it to be able to record your contact.
Really?
Yeah. So if the developers have missed that, and I don't know how true that is, but if that's true, you're not going to walk around every minute or so unlocking your phone, are you?
So this is, I did see something, it might have been today, that somebody was saying that, yeah, the app only works if it's in the foreground, which then indicates that you have to have the app at least open.
Yeah.
Whether the phone has to be unlocked or not, I don't know, but you have to have the app open and active for it to be running. But then there was also things saying that it only records contacts if you've been in the same vicinity as somebody for 15 minutes. So if you've walked down a stairwell and sneezed and you're infected, and then I walk down the stairwell 5 minutes later past you and touch the stairwell or the handrail, it won't pick that up as a contact trace because I didn't spend 15 minutes with you licking my face. So
I've not heard that one, but I think what you do get is, and we know this, you get lots of misinformation as well, and how true these things are. And you can read 10 articles on LinkedIn, and then what you find is, you've got to pick and choose which ones you're going to believe, which one you think is true. Everybody has an opinion. If there's 10 people, there's 10 different opinions. And, somewhere it's for individuals, not only for individuals, but for organizations to do that risk assessment, DPIA, if you like, and say, what are the risks with this app? Is it something that we're willing to recommend that people should have, whether it's their staff or whether it's their patients? So, no easy answer, I'm afraid, for me.
No, I think one of the biggest challenges for me that certainly we've seen from the guidance that's come out around this is they're saying that 60% of the population has to download and actively use it for it to be relevant. So I like a comparison. So I looked at how many people voted last year, and 67% of the population voted.
Yeah.
That's not a massive number, and that's a significant event. And this is a significant event, but in terms of public perception, it's not as significant as knowing when to vote. Like, you haven't got a card through the door. You haven't been told where the polling station is.
Yeah.
So to get 60% of the UK population to actually do something.
And it'd be interesting because, to have any great benefit, that's what they're saying they need to have. Will we get that number? I think I put something on LinkedIn saying that will require something like 50 million people, 55 million people. Really? Is it going to happen? Because you've got older people who don't have mobile phones. Yeah. You've got people who will object to doing it. You've got people who forget to take their phones with them. At the end of the day, and you've got children as well. I'm not really sure. I think we need to do something. I think the app is only part of the contact and tracing. I think there are other things that GPs can do and hospitals can do as well, that face-to-face with people and asking questions. Yeah.
Because that's this one of the strangest things that seems to have come out of this was they were saying a couple of weeks back that because of all of this and because of the advice that was given, people have stayed away from GPs and hospitals so much that the A&E doctors are now concerned that people aren't coming in when they're having a heart attack or they're having a stroke. So you've got that kind of, where somebody may have light symptoms but not fully the symptoms, but then they're not going to go and see anybody, so then that contact doesn't ever get recorded. So I don't think there's any right or wrong answer to how we fix this. It's just you're going to have to wait and see now.
Yeah, it is unprecedented times. We know that, but it's caused us to question things, and we have put things in place. Which is interesting because I'm a governor at my local hospital, and I was on a Teams governors meeting last night, and it is something we've said. It isn't actually in our constitution for the governors. It says that we should meet, and that means face to face. So we've had to change the constitution slightly to be able to do things like Teams where we can't get together, but it's not only for meetings like that. It's consultations with patients, it's team meetings from councils or hospitals and that sort of thing. Some of those things I think are absolutely great and will stay in place going forward, and I think absolutely rightly so. And then some face-to-face consultations with patients. And I always think of maybe patients who are suffering terribly with arthritis. For them to get out of the house, into a car, travel 10 miles to a hospital, park, get out, go to a clinic, and then have to do all that going back home. How much better would it be just to do a face-to-face video conferencing consultation with that patient? The patient experience, absolutely fantastic.
Yeah.
Because all they need to do is to sit before the doctor, see the doctor's face like we are talking now, and say, look, my knee still hurt, the tablets have made me sick. So I think some of those things really do need to stay.
Yeah.
But there are some things at the end of this we need to examine and say, do we need to roll back?
Yeah.
And that was a point I was making on the last Thursday or PrivSec last week. There will be some things that we need to roll back, simply because we may have done them for the COVID-19, but we probably need more time to look at it, to assess it, and to look at the risks. And some of the things we might have to say, no, we stop.
Yeah, I agree. And do you know what? We work with a couple of clients who work in that sort of telemedicine sector and are providing support to busy GP surgeries and busy hospitals. And the technology is there, the ability to have your patient dealt with over the phone or dealt with over a video conference by a qualified nurse is available, but it's NHS Digital is getting there and is moving towards that, and it's understanding the benefits that third parties can provide. But I think sometimes the the negative stance that you get from the press often pushes people away from wanting to do it, because everybody's concerned whether or not it's going to be done right.
Yeah.
In terms of, I was going to say, in terms of like challenges, because obviously for our lifetime this is, you know, unprecedented. Everybody always says unprecedented, you know, but in terms of privacy challenges in your career, you know, this is probably isn't the first thing that you've come across. So parking this, what's like the second biggest challenge to privacy use in your numerous years?
Well, it's interesting because I talk about whatever situation we're in, whatever year we're in, 2012, 13, 14, 15, 16, there's always something else that's coming along that causes us to stop and to think how we're doing things. And I think the biggest thing for me would be the Health and Social Care Act. So when we had PCTs, and then PCTs disappeared and CCGs came in, before that, because PCTs were providers and commissioners, you know, they did both, they could have patient identifiable data. Once CCGs came in, it was then Health and Social Care Act, they can't now receive patient identifiable data. And that was a huge shift in how we did things, because we were always sharing this name of this patient list. That stopped, and that caused a huge sort of ruckus. Well, how do we, CCG saying, well, how are we supposed to do our job? Well, you're the commissioners, you don't need patient identifiable data. And it took a while. So in having to deal with that, you know, I would say that becomes business as usual. People asking questions, why can't you share this data? And then we've had the Caldicott reports that have come out that have then caused us to stop and think about what do we do. So in 2013 as well, that seventh principle, the duty to share is as important as the duty to protect. Now, that was 2013. We then get to 2018 with GDPR, and we now have Article 6 and Article 9, you know, saying, so we now need to look at how do we share data? You know, do we have a legal basis to do so? And what data can we share? And so we've had to cope with that. So it's all been, to me, I call it business as usual, because whatever, we'll get over this and there'll be something else. Yeah,
very true. Yeah, it's a fair point, actually. I think your point about how we've dealt with the pandemic in terms of telemedicine and everything else, it's the same thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's calm, you need to deal with it. Excuse me. It's calm, you need to deal with it. You know, it's just the next thing in the line for a long line of concerns that privacy professionals have to sort of worry about.
Yeah, so it's interesting because, sorry, going back to the video conferencing, about 8-9 years ago, I did a policy for my local hospital where I was the IG lead for telemedicine, video conferencing.
Yeah.
And it was about 8-9 years ago. So how much further have we moved in those 8-9 years in video conferencing? Not very far at all. But over the last 7 weeks, bump, it's happened. And, you know, and I think it's a good thing. So, you know, some things have happened very quickly that we have to say, really good, let's keep it. Just make sure that we've got all the policies and procedures in place to back it up. And I think we'll be okay.
Well, I'm sure I saw a statistic. I was talking to one of the panels that we did for the Data Protection World Forum. Darren, a guy that was on the panel with me.
Darren Williams,
had been working with Zoom, so had been supporting Zoom once it all kicked off. And he said they went from 50 million users a month to 300 million users a month in the space of like a week. And I think when it got reported that they were potentially transferring data to China and this was going on, and they went in and they analysed it all, and he was part of the group that analysed it, there was, I think, less than 50 users whose data had been transferred to or through China out of 300 million. But you think, you know, nobody knew what Zoom was before then, and now all of a sudden it's like you don't need to leave the house. You can sit in your pants. Like no one knows if you've got like shorts on. Like you can put a shirt. Put a shirt and tie on, you know, nobody cares. It's this fabulous world. And I think, yeah, the speed with which that we can, as a human race, we can change, despite the fact that we seem to not particularly like change, is really, really impressive.
So does some of it come down to culture? Because we know one of the most difficult things is changing culture.
Yeah.
Now, some of the things that we are going to say we're going to be doing going forward, we haven't done it in the past. It's a huge cultural change. I just wonder how organisations are going to cope with that culture change.
That's probably the one thing that, for me personally, I feel most unsure about, because I'm a sociable person. You know, when we started this business, I'd spent my entire career working in large organisations, surrounded by people. I had the responsibility of lots of people. I got to see a lot of people every day, and I got to talk to a lot of people. When we started this business, there was that sort of divergence from being in an office and being surrounded by people to working from home. You know, so I'm used to going to team meetings that occasionally drag on because you know, people like a bit of a break from the daily work. And all of a sudden, you've now got most people trying to use the 45-minute free Zoom. So all the chat and the general chitter chatter is gone, because it's like, you know, you've got 45 minutes to get your point across and actually make a business decision, and then you've got to go. But I think, like, I'd like to see people going back to the office and getting back into that kind of environment. But I think there has been a cultural change where people are much more comfortable doing this. Yeah, I'd rather be sat in the pub. Yeah. You know? And when this is done, we'll be back in the pub. You know, we'll be back in the pub. Yeah. But I don't know, does a short-term fix become a long-term cultural change? Yeah. Or, you know, do we get used to this new normal, and then is this it now? Like, are we never going to go back to the pub? I hope not. I don't know. I don't know what the world is going to be like. Are people going to give up their offices? Are people going to, you know, finance directors the world over, seeing the cost reduction?
Yeah, I've got a question. It's come up on a discussion forum today, actually. Somebody, I think it's NHS X, have put out the GDPR 7 principles, and they've come back and says, since when has there been 7 principles? There's only 6.
Oh, Jesus.
And the 7th one is the accountability. And I've gone back and said, I don't care if it's 6 plus 1, or whether it's 6 and, you know, or the 7th principle. I don't care. As far as I'm concerned, there are 7 principles. I know what GDPR says. And they've come back and said, well, are we just confusing things by calling it 7 principles? Isn't that accountability? You're demonstrating you've done the first 6. What do you think? Do you think that accountability is that 7th principle?
I think accountability is everything. Yeah. It's the whole thing. If you can't demonstrate how, what, and why, you know, what you're doing, you think why is it acceptable? How are you going to do it, and why? Why do you think it's acceptable? What are the benefits? What are the risks? Where did you write it down? Yeah. Where did you sit in a room with a diverse range of people and go, this is a good idea, and get an opinion? Yeah. And document it and have somebody else go, that's a good idea. And for me, if you can't do that, then you're failing the rest of the regulation. You know, subject rights, security, transparency. It doesn't matter if you can't stand there and go, I was right and this is why. Yeah.
Or even if you were wrong. Yeah. You've demonstrated you've done your bit. Yeah. This is done all that's reasonable. Okay. And even if you get it wrong, the ICO comes and investigates and said, so why did you do that? And you look, and they look at your paperwork and look at your reasoning and say, well, okay, I understand what you've done, but you've not quite got it right. You need to change something. Yeah. It's interesting, Richard, because Sasha, whenever she rings me and talks to me about stuff, now say, no, you've got to demonstrate compliance with the law. That's the accountability. Demonstrate compliance with the law. And she says, do you know what, Barry? That's going to go on your tombstone. Demonstrate compliance with the law.
But it is, isn't it? And I think the thing that people forget, and I think sometimes the thing that, especially in our world, you get your purists and your practitioners, and that's sort of your purists, your practitioners, and your lawyers. You've got those sorts of three parts of the triangle, and somewhere in the middle is, you know, the average UK business that's just trying to do stuff. And I think sometimes that we forget that demonstrating compliance with the law doesn't necessarily mean being 1000% compliant all the time. Yeah. It's showing that you had due consideration for your activities. Yeah. You documented your thought process. You assessed what you perceive to be the risks and how you perceive you can mitigate those risks, and you documented it and you made a decision. You know, and I think there's this legalistic purist view that compliance is compliance. You must not, you must do. There's the purist view where, you know, you've taken one tiny step wrong, therefore you've failed entirely, and, you know, you're bringing everything into disrepute. And then there's the practitioner view where it's that risk-based approach. What works, what doesn't work, what can you do, how's the best you can do it. And I think sometimes people forget that compliance is a blend of those three things, and then somewhere in the middle is where everyone lives.
Yeah, and it does depend on the risk appetite of the organisation. But every organisation, whether it's one hospital here and one hospital there, they have different structures, they have different ways of doing things, and they will look at things differently. And it doesn't mean that one is right and one is wrong.
No.
It just means that they have looked at their risks and what are their priorities, what should they be doing. And if they own the risk, and I say to some people, sometimes you have to own the risk because you can't mitigate it. So long as you've got a reason why you're owning that risk and you can't mitigate it anymore, just document what you're doing. Yeah.
That's always, you know, I think sometimes in this profession, people are scared to take that stance. You know, one of the biggest challenges that I had in doing this job in a corporate world was being sat on a board, or being sat with the MD or the CEO and saying, I've told you this is not a good idea.
Yeah.
If you're going to do it anyway, then you need to write it down.
Yeah.
And say, and just note in these minutes today in this meeting that I told you not to do it, and feeling that you've got the support of the business to be able to say that, and feeling that you've got the comfort in your own knowledge, your own experience to be able to say that is a huge thing. But
and that's your role. That's your role as the DPO, is to advise them. If they don't take your advice, I always say to people, it's not a resigning matter.
No.
You've given the advice, they documented, and, you know, hey, do you know what? They may well get away with it.
And 9 times out of 10,
they will. but what happens when that one time comes up and the ICO says, I'm coming to visit?
You know, this is it, and it's ethics and morals, isn't it? And I think, you know, some of this gets lost in that. When I first started training, I always used to talk about, you know, companies are like motorway drivers. You've got the people that do 50, or what, no messing about, even in the slow lane, annoy everybody. You've got the people that do 70 to 80. You know, they're keeping with the flow, they're staying in and around everybody else, they don't want to make any waves. You've got the people doing 85 to 90. They're a bit more edgy, but they're unlikely to get caught, but they're just going to push it a little bit further. And then you've got the people doing 100 and 110. And they won't get caught every time, but when they do, they're going to lose their license. That's it. It's going to be a serious problem. So you get a lot of gain. But it's only going to last you like a certain period of time.
We've never been caught before. I've never been caught before.
No, I haven't actually. No. I know, that's lying. No, I had a scooter once, many years ago, little 100cc Yamaha scooter, and I got caught because I was coming up to a roundabout and there was traffic and there's a petrol station, so I went through the petrol station and then down the other road. And this police officer was annoyed that I'd obviously taken a shortcut, so he followed me, and he pulled me over and he said, do you know how fast you were going? And I said, no, I think about 30. He said, you were doing 36 in a 30. I said, I've only got a 50cc scooter, so it doesn't do more than 30. And he obviously knew his motorbike, so he just went, that's funny, that's a 100cc Yamaha. I think you can do about 65 on those. And I was, Can you? I didn't even know. So the flag is always worth a try. But eventually, you're probably going to get caught out.
Yeah. Good. Richard.
It's been an absolute pleasure.
Yep.
Any final words, Barry? Not as in like final words, but you know.
I would just say to people who are in the position we have, not two things. One is we, like everybody else, are suffering with our workload dropping off, and things are beginning to pick up a little bit. I've had a couple of things. One I picked up last week, another one I've been given yesterday, but I might have to say no to because of time constraints of how much time they'll want. Is, you know, things will pick up and things will get back, and I still think we need to support one another. I think support is really important. Good networking, and if we can support other colleagues, maybe point them in the direction of maybe work, I think that would be helpful. But I would say to people who are continuing to do work, is, as we've been talking about, just document all that you do, to make sure that if there is any inquiries, the ICO comes looking, that you have a reason and a rationale why you've done something.
I like it.
Good. Anything for you?
Same. I think we've become more of a community since it started. We've been fortunate to be connected by companies like Data Protection World Forum that give us the chance to share that knowledge. But yeah, people are being more sensible. And if you don't want to write it down, then you probably shouldn't be doing it. Yeah. And it's that simple for me. Yeah. I think if you can stick to those two things, be nice, be sensible, and we're all going to get along just fine. Yep. Excellent. Good. I enjoyed that. Good. We'll have another pub chat sometime soon. Hopefully in an actual pub. At least in a beer garden, because the sun is shining, to be fair. Yeah, I talked to somebody because Andrew Harvey and I did the pub chat at IRMS conference, and it's interesting because we said, let's run through what we're going to do. And so we got a pint at lunchtime and we sat outside and it was a lovely warm sunny day, but for some reason we were early in the bar, so we had another drink. And then we took another one into the conference room where we were doing the presentation. So I think we were 2.5, 3 pints while we were talking. So see, I like that though. That's why, when we talked about this before, I wanted to have this chat. Like, I wanted to have just a chat. No pre-call, no script, no 10 questions, just sit down, have a double brandy, get a little bit overexcited, show me legs, get your legs out, and just enjoy it. It's been, I've thoroughly enjoyed it, Barry. Good. And you, Richard. And just to remind you, on the 14th of September, we do have a face-to-face training in London. We have the IG in Cyber with Healthcare UK. I'm very looking forward to that, actually. That's going to be a good one for us. Yeah. I'll be sober for that as well. Well, it starts at 9:30, 10 o'clock in the morning, so I hope so. I'll give it a go. Yeah. Barry Moult, ICO's Data Protection Practitioner of the Year. Correct, or something like that. Cheers, Richard. Take care. Take care, mate. See you soon.